Okay, now we are recording it. So from this week, we are going to discuss political concept of love, concentrate on political concept of love, and not maybe not in your presentation, but I will discuss mostly the common love, not romantic love anymore. So this week we're going to discuss the political concept of love based on Negri and Hart work on love, and also the next week, which is in 3 wherever after the short break, we'll start to discuss today actually the negative sides of love, the love gone bad, distorted types of love. But I will elaborate more on this during the next week, not exactly next, but the one after the break, the next week of the course. And after that, we will, the last week of the course, we will discuss the revolution together, considering the political concept of love, including in its discussion, and the negative side of love. But to start discussion of common law, we still need to come back to this more individualized love, so more classical, traditional conception of love. And I know I'm showing this quote every time I'm talking about it, and I'm repeating myself. And this not last time I'm going to do it even during this course, but I think it's crucial. And I totally don't agree, some of you know, with Freud's stance on this, that his concentration on the individual and his concentration on the program of pleasure, on the pleasure principle. So my argument with Freud is based on me arguing that humans are not egoistic creatures from birth, and that we are not seeking, we are not looking for pleasure. It's not our main goal. It's not the main goal that defines us as humans, that define the program, our main drive, our main program and our main drive. So for Freud, and it's not only about Freud, it's also about our default understanding of who we are, of who are human beings. So it's Freud internalized Freud, or maybe Freud was just the one who was talking about it openly. This is the way we think about ourselves by default. So the way we understand ourselves, the way we understand what is human, is based on this classical perception that first is individual, and individual, the child or infant, is egoistic. So what we want is our own pleasure, and we kind of separate it from others. And then the next stage from this initial stage, being separated, being egoistic, for Freud and for our perception of a human, the next stage is to socialize, to become social. To become social, and to for Freud, it's also the reality principle, which we have to follow in exchange for initial pleasure principle. But the reality principle for Freud, it's still the pursuit of pleasure, but just in a more realistic way. So to be a part of society for Freud on this second stage, we need to sacrifice a part of our happiness, a part of us being egoistic, but only for the society, but only because this is a more realistic way to be egoistic, to attain pleasure. I don't agree with that. I think it's not like that from the beginning. I don't think we are egoistic from the beginning and to the end. And I don't think that we are separated individuals, separated from the others. At least I don't think it's the useful perspective to consider humans that way and to develop this theory. And there are actually proofs that their other perspective is possible. The perspective where we are initially social and never separated individuals. We can even see this if we think about our own lives and our own childhood. This other perspective where we are not egoistic, and when the perspective in which pleasure, egoistic pleasure, is not what we want. It's also something one can elaborate and one can prove, same as Freud did with his perspective. So, and again, Matthew Lieberman, we're going to come back to him a couple of more times. And you remember that you had experiment conducted on you, about the feeling of pain, social pain and social pleasure. And now you know that we feel social pain, it's same physical, meaning realistic pain, and maybe even more painful than the physical pain for us. So it's actual real pain when we are not appreciated by society or rejected by someone. Something is happening with our sociality, with our social body. We actually do feel real pain that we consider more to be more painful experience than the physical pain, than when our physical body is damaged. So for Lieberman, this is the proof that sociality is extremely important to us. So he claims that love and belonging might seem as a convenience, as something like for Freud we can add to our initially egoistic drive. But for real, our biology is built that way, that this is because it's very important for our survival, according to Lieberman. Because of that, we have this thirst to build our connections. Not only Freud, not only our default way of thinking suggests that we have this. Did we have this it's even neurobiology, right? The way Krishna presents, it's not only Krishna, it's almost all neurobiologists present our brain. It's still egoistic brain. You remember Dawkins with his egoistic genes. So the perspective we impose on the human being is the egoistic perspective. Like pleasure is what we are looking for, and this is our own egoistic pleasure. And it is true that you can find this, you can prove this with scientific facts and with certain scientific perspective, but you can also prove, like Lieberman does here, the other perspective, where you can switch using the same facts, the same empirical reality of human brain. You can also prove the other perspective, that we are initially social, that we are initially connected, and that we are actually connected with each other at the basis, right? And the individualization comes as secondary, and it's never complete. So we never complete individuals separated from each other. It might be seen as at least partially an illusion. And you know that Matthew Lieberman reversed the Maslow pyramid. Here you see it. Sorry, it's in Russian. I can translate if one needs the translation. So according to Lieberman, you see it here. For Maslow, initially, the basic need of humans are physiological needs. So we need food and we need shelter. We need something physiological to survive. This is our basic needs. What Matthew Lieberman suggests is that we need to switch it to love and belonging. So the social, our social need is so basic that it needs to go on the bottom of a pyramid. It's something that's so important, and we actually need it to survive. If is our basic need more important than food and shelter? And this is something. Yes, Ladislav.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that some scholars from Frankfurt School claimed, for example, that there are almost no suicides known out of hunger, but a lot of suicides known out of the love which is not mutual, or something like that.
Yeah, true. So it's even better than this meme. If you can provide me with a quote, it would be great. It's true, because even if people commit, sometimes people, so the one of the reasons people commit suicide is financial. uh, most of the suicide cases is rejected love or something like that, but also the great part is financial. But I tend to interpret it that it's not only about money, having money or no money. Money is something that gives you a certain social stages, and at least you're not a burden to your family, or you're not rejected by society. So not having the money is like being rejected by society in a symbolized form. It's not only not having the money, but it's also being abandoned by society, not being supported by society. So it's the absence of money is also social. So, and Lieberman proof for this, that we need love and belonging to society, to others more, is because when we are infants, when we are young, if someone won't take care of us as our attachment, or someone we are attached to, uh, we dependent on them to feed us, right? If there is no attachment, or the person is not attached to us enough to feed us, we'll just die, because we can't take care of ourselves yet. So the sociality comes first, and the food comes with sociality, and this physiological needs satisfied, this comes with sociality in case of humans. But in case of other creatures too, it only also depends how we interpret it, because any individual was given birth to by other individual, and the way to see them as separated individuals is the secondary point of view in comparison to the initial unity. So there is also, not only Lieberman developed this idea, but Mitchell, before Lieberman, started to claim that there is this default mode of our brain, that when we don't think, when we are not directing our thinking into something, when we don't have a goal, what we need to think about, we naturally, by default, think about our social connections. So when we think about nothing, when we don't have any goal to elaborate with our thoughts, we would tend to think about other people, not even about ourselves, but about other people, the way they're treating us. So our social connections. This is something our brain considers the most important thing to elaborate. This is what we have practice in when we don't have a practice in something else. And this is what we think the most about. So our brain is very social in that way. Our brain is something that when it's not goal directed to think about something else, it tends to think about other people. So it is, for Lieberman, even he claims that our brain can be considered as only the point, a certain point in other social connected. We are kind of interconnected with each other, because each brain is directed towards another brain, is thinking about other brain, and this is how we are connected together. And also for Mitchell, who was talking about mentalizing, and you remember you was discussing mentalizing with Krishna. You remember what is it? I knew, and you didn't know the answer, and I knew the answer. What is mentalizing?
The ability to understand others' emotions.
Yes, so mentalizing is thinking about others, and this is what our brain tends to do, to think about other, to understand others' behavior. And we can also so Mitchell somewhere claims that this activity that comes first in the brain that we are predisposed to do this mentalizing, to think about, trying to understand other, and our comprehension of ourselves, of our individuality, comes second and comes as the as a kind of modified version of this mentalizing. So we think about ourselves. We as individuals come second after the mentalizing of the other, and we are for ourselves this one of the others within this structure of interconnectivity. So it's not some kind of individual that comes first by default, and then we start to connect. First, the others, our brain mentalizing directed on others by default, understanding them, reflecting on it. And then the secondary process is we are reflecting, reconstructing who we are. We are one of those people. And precisely we know it from everyday life experience because we have names, right? Each of you have a name, and you tend to associate yourself with this name. Whatever I call your name, you will recognize it as yours. You recognize yourself in this name. But who gave you your name? Where did you get it? Why you believe it? How you know it? It's not so. First, it was your parents or whoever it was, but it wasn't you. So the someone, the person, you, the individual, the way you construct it for yourself, and the way you even feel you are free to express yourself or something like that. It's still a secondary process in comparison to what society, how society formed you. Precisely, you're someone who was taking care of you when you were infant, and maybe when you didn't have such an ability to reflect on it, and you actually believed in who you are, like good boy or good girl, right? So we are the influence of society, and the words that we use is words in thinking about ourselves. It's words from our culture, words from that we learned from our parents or our teachers. Of course, later the freedom, there is a bit of freedom here anyway, because you are able to reflect on it. But this reflection is a secondary process. It's still on the basis of this you being constructed as a part of society. And you're never separate anyway, because even when you talk to yourself, you still use the language of society, and you still the grammar rules, so it will make sense. And so it's basically the individualization is the secondary process, and it's never complete. There's also this theory that individual consciousness comes as the special state of connectivity with others. It makes connectivity more efficient. So the personal consciousness, individual consciousness, as a certain state of collective consciousness, of collectivity as such, as a more efficient state of it. Therefore, the mentalizing is the making connections more efficient. And the other thing I keep talking recently is this research in Baby Link Lab at Cambridge. I think they started 2 years ago. Was it 3 years ago? So it's very recent. And what were they doing? They were measuring brain activity of mother and a child and the infant during games when they were playing with each other. And as a result, they one of the leading researchers is Victoria Leong. So they suggested that neuroscientists normally consider this intersubjective level of our brain. This is still within the perspective Freud was in, and we still within this perspective that our brains are separate, and we have the separate neuronal activity, the separate brains, and therefore we just take the individual outside of the society and consider this brain as a separate brain. And this looks logical to us. Plus, we'll consider it as egoistic and looking for pleasure. But when we do other setting of research, for example, this we try this setting of research when there are two people and they are communication are measured. We could include, except for this intersubjective level, we can also consider intrasubjective level. And what they found out within this research that there are actually synchronization of brains. So our brains, when we are connecting, especially mother with the infant, people who are attached to each other, their brains are synchronizing. So they actually work as one mega unit, as one unit with each other. It's not as something separate. So it just depends on the, and it's not only about two people, right? It's about the classroom. It's about the other types of connection. It's just the setting of neurobiological research was organized in such a way because of our default way of thinking that we mostly discussed the intersubjective level. That is the level of separate brain, and we still believe in this brain, and this is our default way of thinking of brains as separate. But we can also start to think about the brains as our brain as the part or only one instant in this intrasubjective level of communication. So we also, and this intrasubjective level of communication comes first, and we are actually always a part of this web. We are always in communication with each other, always synchronizing with something, even if it's through the book, through reading a book. We're synchronizing with Nietzsche, who is already dead, for example, or we're synchronizing during the group works in certain ways. Of course, you can critically reflect on something and you can argue with each other, but it's still synchronization, even if you disagree. First, you need to understand someone, you need to feel something towards them, and then you disagree. So this disagreement, separation comes first, comes second, and it only appears as a certain state of this synchronization. So even this synchronization, disagreement, is a part of a certain type of synchronization, right? And the other thing, again, Donald Winnicott, in one of his lectures, explained that there is no such thing as a baby. Does any of you remember what does it mean? You don't know what does it mean that there is no baby. So according to Donald Winnicott, so Donald Winnicott was actually the one whose perspective, who was criticizing Freud, first of all, because for Freud, this perspective that we are egoistic and that there is a separated egoistic human and infant who is trying to satisfy their egoistic narcissistic needs using the mother and all the rest of the people. But Winnicott claimed that there is no such thing as a baby, meaning there is no such thing as a separate baby. Baby always comes with someone who is taking care of them. So the similar logic, like with a Lieberman, we wouldn't survive if someone wouldn't feed us when we are babies. Here it's always a tandem. It's always the couple of minimum one person who is taking care of a baby, the synchronization with a child, and so it's always the couple of people. The baby as separate entity is imaginary. It will never be survive. It would never survive as a separate individual. It's always a part of the maybe not of the family, but of connections with other people. Since we are alive, there should be someone who was taking care of us. If we know how to talk, there should be someone who was teaching us how to talk, or someone to learn from how to talk. We are a part of this of the connectivity with others from the beginning, and we are attaching to them, and we feel pain when they are rejecting us, and this is more important psychologically for us than need for food. So it's not only about babies, it's also about being a student, not being able to fully be separate of what makes you a student, actually. And something that I promised you to find, this idea of neoteny. Remember when we, the idea of neoteny is that we retain the juvenile features, that we stay children for a longer time. And one of those who was defending and elaborating this theory was Gould, Stephen Jay Gould. You can read this paper if you want, Creating the Creator. So according to him, our socialization, the level of our sociality and our ability to learn, mental capacities that we need to learn the way we learn for our brains to stay plastic for a longer time. We need to retain some of the features of when we were childhood. So adulthood, human adulthood is childlike. We stay children for a longer time. So this idea that there is no such thing as a baby, it also, we can extend it to the level that there is no such thing as an individual, even in adult age. Okay, now we have to discuss actually the political concept of love. So this was important switch that I was trying to make from the neurobiology classical perception of human in neurobiology, this initial setting. It still combats this view that we are I lost you. Was it something with my computer or was?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, you disappeared.
Yeah, sorry. I'm here again. I'm gonna share my screen. Did you miss me? No,
Of course.
thank you. Okay, now I'm back. And so the political concept of love. So I will base my discussion on something that you have in your reading list for this week. It's Antonia Negri and Michael Hart discussing. It's a short part in Commonwealth where they are discussing. It's mostly Michael Hart because I saw his lecture on political concept of love at EGS. So I think it's mostly his idea, and it is presented. It is presented both in this book and in a couple of more places. And also, as a reading for this week, you have the paper that actually criticizes Hamza chapter that criticizes the political concept of love. So we can discuss it from both sides. There is someone in the waiting room and I can't, yeah, I'm admitting them. Okay, so Negri and Hart suggested that we need to start talking about love as a political concept, about love as within the context of politics. we don't find it comfortable, because love is romanticized, and love is mostly used within this romantic context, and therefore it's not perceived as something serious and something common to discuss within the serious context. But they suggest that this needs to be changed, and the concept of love is actually good a concept for elaborating it as a serious concept within the context of politics. So they claim that it is unwise to leave love, such a good concept, to priests, poets, and psychoanalysts. To poets, because they do romanticize it too much, and we tend to treat poetry as something not serious. And also priests, because there is this concept of love as social love within the Christianity, and it's quite good one, but it obviously doesn't work in contemporary secular society. And to psychoanalysts, I totally understand them. To psychoanalysts ruin every concept they have chance to ruin, but they have their reasons. I also have my different reasons why it shouldn't be left to psychoanalyze the concept of love. So the idea of Negri and Hart is that they refer to Lenin exclamation in October 1917 that people are not ready for revolution. People are not ready yet to rule themselves, to be their own masters, or to survive without masters. And the alternative to this that is normally suggested is the anarchism. So there are either people who are ruled by someone, or the opposite perspective. It's a perspective of anarchism. So Negri and Hart, people are not ready to rule themselves yet. So there are these two opposite. They're not ready yet for anarchism, but Negri and Hart suggest the third way, and the solution for this is a joke actually from Zizek, who talks about Brecht, that we need new people. There should be new people those people are not good. We just need to, it's not the problem with the masters, or it's not the problem with something else, but it's problem with people themselves. And maybe we can just find the new people that are actually able to govern themselves, to rule themselves. And people do change within the history. If in 1970, I think people were a bit different, and maybe now people are actually ready to transform, to rule themselves, and to organize this, organize their existence in a more horizontal way. And Negri and Hart concept for this is multitude. So those people, the unity of people, they are able to organize themselves and to cooperate in solidarity. What they call them, a society of the future, maybe society of present times, is multitude. Multitude is a political category, and it defines a fundamentally heterogeneous group of people, so group that are not reducible to some monolithic unity. It's not a unification of people, but the unity of people who are different, but they are at the same time, they are not unified. They are different, but they are cooperating. They are capable of coexisting. And precisely this is those new people that are, unlike those Lenin was criticizing, they are finally ready to rule themselves. And the process of transformation, this is how Negri and Hart use the concept of political love. The very process of transformation through cooperation, through coexistence, this is the social love. And we really need this concept to similar to this concept to to point on this, to capture this this process. And concept of love seen as this transformation within the society, the work of society, even the learning process, a communal learning process that we are involved into. And this is what the political concept of love defines. It's not a feeling of being sympathetic to someone. It might include this feeling too, but it's mostly the process of learning and the process of transformation, the process of practicing something together. Same with the romantic love. We know that we delineate love as a feeling, although in neurobiology we mostly talk about love as the intense feeling of falling in love. But it also includes the work of transformation, the work of coexistence, the work of what we'll call in popular psychology building relationship. So it's not only about, but in this case, it's not about two people, but it's about the work of coexistence, of ruling ourselves as a society, as the community. Negri and Hart, of course, there are other. So the process of multitude learning the art of self-rule and inventing lasting democratic forms of social organization, this is the work of love, the work of the, of love. There are other good concepts like solidarity and friendship, but for Negri and Hart, love is better. It has it might have a similar meaning as solidarity. Now the way we use it, but there are certain contrasts, certain things that within the concept of solidarity works in a worse way than in a concept of love. For example, it suggests that we agree on something completely, and it still delineates the group of people who are in solidarity about someone, and then normally it's against the other people who are not in solidarity, as opposed to the rest of the people. So this is not exactly, it's unifying concept. This means it's good concept, but still it has this shade on it that we have certain ideas that we share. We are connecting within the groups because of those ideas, and there are enemy groups that don't share our ideas. And this, if you want to rule ourselves and if you want equality and stuff like that, we can't delineate the society into the groups. Well, we can, but there's supposed to be something else that actually helps those groups to coexist and to coexist, to be equal and not to kill each other at least. So friendship is good concept for Negri and Hart, but they think love is better, even as a romantic concept, because friendship for them doesn't imply that people are involved in a process of self-transformation. So love requires that people who are participating in a process of love relationship are transforming each other or influencing each other, coexisting with each other, not just tolerating each other. And friendship doesn't require the transformation to that extent. So this is why they prefer the concept of love instead of concept of just friendship and solidarity. They do admit that their concept of love is a secular version of Christian love, because it was in Christianity. Like now when we're talking about love, we mostly mean in our secular society romantic love of a couple falling in love, and something might be connected with dating. But within the Christianity, within the Christian society, it actually functioned as a political context, within the political context. So for Christians, the God is love, but this is not, and everything is love. But this is love that we have responsibility to practice. It's not only love to God and God love to us, it's also love that we need to show to our neighbors, right? Love your neighbor. This is the love that maybe God is within the Christianity is the instance of perfect love, but to show our love to God, we have to practice it on other people. So this was a good concept in that way, except for that it leads to the Christian or religious fundamentalism, when we think that when we delineate who is our neighbor and who is not our neighbor, like people from different religion are not our neighbors, therefore we shouldn't practice our love on them. So there are, and because it's traditional and oppressive perspective. But the concept was good in terms that it wasn't reduced to romantic love. It was actually a social concept of love. So what Negri and Hart are trying to develop is the secular version of this Christian love. So why they are against, why were they against the concept of love in psychoanalysis? Because in psychoanalysis, it is centered on a family. It is mostly Freud reduced it to a family. He discusses the attachment and the sexuality within the concept of family. It's not only family, it's mostly about men in the family, because everything, when he talks about girls, when he talks about women, he talks about them as the deviated form, and their psychosexual development as a deviated form of a development of a man. So the love attachment is reduced in psychoanalysis to a family, precisely to a father. His father, for Freud, has a crucial role in psychosexual development of a child, and then the perspective he uses to consider culture, the cultural processes within the society. It's still the perspective, the initial perspective was the father in the center, and everything else is just the forms of this initial or projection of this initial love that is practiced within the family. So this is why for psychoanalysis, according to Negri and Hart, we shouldn't leave the concept of love to a psychoanalyst. And my claim would be here, I would add here that it's also what's wrong with psychoanalysis is the same as what is wrong with everything, because the concept of love, we still tend to think about ourselves as individuals, at least individual first, and then we socialize. And if you talk about love, so first we are individuals, we don't love anyone, and then only we start to be connected with others. But it's not true, right? It's or at least it might be only partially true, because we are also already connected with others. We are also already attached to each other, to someone who is taking care of us. And the separation comes second, and it's also always partial. So this is the problem in psychoanalysis, that it has troubles, like everything else too, has troubles to see the sociality or social love as a basis. Okay, I think we'll talk more about it next time. We'll have more time for it. If you have any questions, we have 3 minutes left. I'll be happy to answer them.
I have a question.
Good. Which one?
So this is usually claimed in pop psychology that in order to love other people in a healthy way, you need firstly to love yourself in a healthy way. There was a couple.
Try.
Try
to do it. Yes, I know they claim that. What was their couple with?
Yeah, there was a couple of arguments in Polina's text that people usually just stop on this stage of loving themselves, and therefore they are not transcendent the borders of their ego. But you claim that basically the sociality is not the second stage we need to come to, but the first stage. So how would you treat these advices about healthy love to yourself and then healthy love to society?
Yeah, I hate this advice, even though it's partially right, but it's like in being right, it's wrong already. So it's true that to be accepted more by others and to be adult, you need this level of individualization, which we can claim that comes in a form of loving yourself. But who is you? But it's impossible on practice. You can't trick yourself to the end in that much that you can't be that self-sufficient. But at the same time, you have to trick yourself to be considered self-sufficient individuals, but self-sufficient individual, and to be tolerated by others in society, and to provide the care for others. So this is what we associate with the idea of being adult, right? But if you think about it, who are those who are us who love ourselves? It's still like we know from today's presentation. So this nostalgia so it's still, this is the memory, right, of when we love ourselves. This is the memory of other people taking care of us, giving us a name, right, providing a care for us. This is a cozy place in the past that we come back to. This is the nostalgic feeling. Our love is a nostalgic feeling of us, when we felt that someone loves us. This feeling of other taking care of us constitute us. We internalize it, and this is the place within ourselves that we can come back to. There is no us that can love ourselves. It's still the internalized society, parents, people who loved us in the past within our relationship or not within our relationship. Even when we love ourselves, it's still not our love. It's the love that someone gave to us, and we just learned the trick to keep it in our memory. So it is true, and we need to practice that. We actually need to practice that to survive, because if we stay those children who demand love, direct love, and we're not taking care of others in exchange for them taking care of us, the society won't tolerate us, because they don't like this kind of people. But they have right on it, because people need to be taken care of too. So there is supposed to be someone who is taking care of other people, not only demanding care. And to be able to provide the care for others, to be adult, you need to have this inner place. You might call it self-love, but I think it's just pathetic coping mechanisms. That is, even though it's pathetic, you still need it. Some place within yourself that you imitate the love to yourself that you know was practiced by other people, and without being detached from those other people. Like parents, for example, they died, but you still remember that you was a child to someone was supporting you. But now you're doing it yourself. You are your own parent. Not your own parent, but kind of pretending pathetically that you are. So internalized. Okay, I need to let you go. Thank you for today. I'll see you on Wednesday, hopefully, in reality offline. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Good
Bye-bye.